All right, everybody. Welcome. Thanks for everyone who's here right on time on this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. As I get spam to my phone, because I don't know if anyone else deals with that every day where they get a bunch of random calls. All right, everybody, we're going to give everyone just another second to come in, get settled. But seems like we have a great group so far. Thanks everyone for being here. This looks like we've got a critical mass to start, so we'll get started. Welcome, everybody.
Cool.
My name's Rob Burnett. I'm the CEO here at Netcapital, and we've got Esmond Goy with us today. Esmond, welcome. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for making this happen.
So for everyone should know, based on the invite, but this is a special Q&A that we're hosting today. Esmond is the CEO of a company called Power Hero. They were featured on CNBC the other night, which is exciting. It's always fun when one of our issuers gets kind of nationally syndicated press. And so we wanted to make sure, when things like that happen, that investors get a chance to follow up, ask questions, and hear more. So the plan today is we've got Esmond with us for a whole hour, and we're going to ask him some questions. So I've got some pre-prepared questions to kick us off to learn more about Esmond and Power Hero. But for everyone here who's listening in, this is really your time. This is for you to get to know Power Hero better and to learn more about the company. So if you notice on your Zoom, there's both a chat function and a Q&A function at the bottom of your screen, or sometimes it's at the top. It might be up here, it might be down there. Please put in your questions. The Q&A function's best. We'll try to get to them roughly in order, or in kind of order of what makes sense based on how the information flows through this webinar. We'll try not to bounce around too much. But with that, Esmond, welcome. Thanks for being here. Where are you calling in from today?
I'm calling it from the West Coast. I'm actually calling it from Vancouver.
Nice.
And it is truly beautiful here. Vancouver, some people think it's just all rain and clouds, but in the summer we do get some such sunshine here. And it's you might be wondering why I'm in Vancouver, and the company's headquarters in LA. But what happened was my previous company got acquired. Yeah, by a Canadian equity company, and I ended up being the CTO for the company for a while until I started Power Hero. So, and if you've ever been to Vancouver, you come here, you'll want to stay. But just for the scene. Anyway, thank you again for inviting me.
No, of course, and I've heard beautiful things about Vancouver. I've never had a chance to visit, but it's high up on my list. I've always wanted to go to Whistler, which I know is right up the road.
Yes, yes.
So Esmond, let's start off with kind of the big question, right? So you were featured on CNBC. That's a pretty cool thing for any entrepreneur. Hopefully everyone here has had a chance to see it. You can see a recording on powerhero.com. But why don't you tell us a little bit about kind of what people can expect if they haven't seen it yet?
Well, you only can see, I guess, the highlights of what makes Power Hero, I guess, a good investment. We got recruited by these guys, out of the blue. That they said that they were doing some research and invited us to appear on their program, and that that it's probably about 20 minutes of real interview, but there was about 4 hours of interviews, and I guess they felt that the ones that they picked were the best. But I thought that some of the other stuff that didn't come up was more interesting, like some of the stuff that we're doing in the patent area. Like we got a new patent that is on an application. I think it's and Rob, you need to guide me as to what I can and cannot say. Okay.
Sure. We can talk about most anything here. As long as it's public information, we can talk about a lot of stuff.
Okay. Well, this is patented, so I guess in a sense it's public information. But it has to do with an app that I call it AirQ, AIRCUE, and it's if you're familiar with these dining applications like book the kind of
Like
application where you
Resi
book a restaurant.
or yeah.
Yeah,
Hmm.
yeah, and Wazy. Wazy is a good example where people contribute and put in their own data. Right? They say, well, this restaurant's great, and this and that.
Hmm.
And so we've patented this app or technology that allows people to report and register charging points, any electrical charging point, and maybe beyond that, because not imagine if you're in an airport and you're looking for a charging outlet. it, it's not always evident where it
Yeah,
is. Could be
and a lot of
behind.
them don't
Could be
work.
behind. Yeah, yeah, exactly. It could be behind a column or something, and someone found it, and they just reported on our app, and our app will kind of book it. So now it's part of this growing universe of app. And think of sockets, and think of EV stations. Because there'll be an EV station someone found. Oh, hey, it's just a local grocery store or something else, and it's not on the map, right? So
Hmm.
this is one way of building out this inventory of charging stations that the unknown. So it just helps, eliminate the range anxiety. So we think that of itself is a business.
Yeah,
So we're pretty excited about that. But anyway, so that's some of the stuff that did not go into the webinar.
that
And
makes sense.
and of course, my love for fishing. Nobody's interested in that, but
No one, that didn't make the cut on the 20-minute show. Well, here let's take a step back for a second, Esmond, because I learned a little bit about you that I didn't know on that interview, and it sounds like your first business was in baby food. So I'd love to
well,
hear a little bit more
yeah,
about you and your journey from kind of like entrepreneurial baby food into EV
uh,
charging.
how much time do we have?
About
Anyway,
53 minutes, so
okay.
use your
Well,
time
I
wisely.
won't take all of that time. I'm an electrical engineer, and even that is by accident. I never really wanted to go to college, but I got drafted by my dad, and I had lousy grades, so it's a wonder that the college accepted me. But I think it was because my three elder sisters went there, so they felt like it was an obligation to take me in. But anyway,
Kind of had to
so
take you on.
yeah. Well, the baby food wasn't my first deal. I actually started out uh, uh, turning around a company. Was in the communications business, and they were one of the first companies in voice messaging. Don't throw rocks at me because I know people hate voice messaging. but I had this. This company had burned through two sets of investors, and they were on a third set of investors, and my company became one of those investors. And and the investors that were already there, they were pretty much fed up with the management at the time, and they wanted to get rid of them. But I took a lead role, became chairman of the company, and nursed it in about 6 years. But anyway, one of the ideas I had was to take voice messaging and combine it with email. Now, this is back in the 80s, okay, or early 90s. So voice messaging and email and combine the two so that you make one call and you can extract your messages through that one call. And that was the name of the product, One Call. And that became we were the only one in town with that. So we would be able to read back an email. In those days, the computer voice is terrible. It did sound like robots, but so that was and I managed to turn around that company, or led the turnaround that company, and it left a mark in the some of the investors there. And I got invited to turn around another company later on, and that was the baby food company. And that was an interesting situation. There was a twin brothers that they were probably the earliest of naturists that you can find. You know, long hair, hippie style, and strictly organic oriented. And they got married and they had babies. And when their wives had babies, they said, "We got to feed it organic food." And
Yep.
so there was no organic food. They started a company called Spess, uh, and it was bought by Heinz, and I don't know whether it changed hands a number of times. And so I was invited to turn around this company, and they had I downsized it in a sense because they had three separate facilities, and you know, marketing was in Boulder, Colorado, and the manufacturing was in Vermont. So, a nightmare for managing. But anyways, I got I got I got that turned around, and one of the best things I did was I always find somebody that knows things better than I do. So I recruited a food guy, and he was a great guy, just a great guy. He's now working for a famous producer, a film producer. But anyway, I digress. So that experience in turning around, I was asked to apply my skills into turning around a baby food company. So that's kind of how I got into the business.
And it sounds like, and that was kind of not the start, but you've constantly been working in turning around, growing, selling businesses since then. So give us a peek inside. Like, what motivates you to keep doing this, to keep building business after business?
I don't think I have a choice. I believe God has a plan for all of us, and this was His plan for me. It's like, you know, God let me off. I don't want to do another one, but but something just keeps coming up. I finished that one, and just idle hands or idle minds. That's bad to have idle mind. But so I had this idea that, well, I wanted to get an EV, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I had a hard time trying to figure out how to get it charged. I live in an apartment building, and the public station was just difficult to find. That's It's not like they have these neon lights, right? If a gas station have these huge towers and have these signs that's
Yeah,
giving the
they're
pricing of
trying
the
to they're
gas.
trying to get you
Yeah,
to notice.
yeah, yeah, and I can see one like a mile away, right? But there's no such thing for charging stations. So, and then when you find them, you find that someone's already parked there, and it's not an EV.
Yeah.
So all kinds of those issues, and that frustration just kind of grew, and that was the beginning of Power Hero.
Well, on your note on kind of you feel like you can't stop. I've got a good friend who is a serial entrepreneur, and we were chatting, and we like to joke that entrepreneurship is a disease for which there is no cure, only management techniques. So it's just about trying to kind of find winners and
Yeah.
find things you care about, but we can't
Well,
stop.
one of our board members, Troy Helming, right?
Hmm.
He raised money on Netcapital,
You did.
and I met him on one of your CEO Q&A kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
Um, and I said, well, I like this guy. He's kind of like simpatico. We have the same ideas, same motivation. And he started like 6 companies himself, I think, and he has a tremendous track record, and he's had his so-called what do you call these, the unicorns, right? Um,
Yeah,
and
he's had, yeah.
I had a unicorn. We raised money for 75 million in a bond, and this was, I think, 2000, the year 2000. We 75 million, and the valuation was 1.8 billion. So that's the definition of a unicorn, right? You're in the billion
Yeah,
kind of
worth over $1
stratosphere.
billion.
Yeah. And we had grown it to, I was the CEO then, and also a co-founder with 3 other engineers, and we had grown it to about 40 million, 45 million, partly through acquisition and all. And we had 300 employees, and we got hit by 911. 2000,
Yeah,
the terrorist attack in New York.
yeah.
And I even had 3 people in that building that morning.
Wow.
Thank God they got out before it happened. But so that took down that company. And
Yeah, it's
you know,
incredible how the
yeah,
world events can really, stand in the way
yeah.
of otherwise kind of
Well, it
going
shut
along.
down the
Yeah.
financial industry,
Hmm.
and so our loans were called, so everything was dead. Like New York, the Wall Street, the world financial would just stop. Right?
It did. So thinking, kind of diving into the company a little bit, because there's so many aspects of Power here that I want to chat about today. But first and foremost, one thing that's really obvious in your materials is your patent strategy. So can you talk to me a little bit about kind of like obviously that's a
Yeah.
big part of your strategy. So talk to me a little bit about
Yeah.
the thinking around that, how that started, and then in layman's terms, what are some of the things that have been patented by Power Hero?
Okay. Well, I've done this several times now over several decades, and you do learn from the mistakes you made, right? And one of the things that I've learned is that startups sometimes they go too fast without first understanding where they're going. They get caught up in the fever. Oh, this looks exciting, and they just want to jump in, and they raise a hope, and everybody gets excited. All the VCs get excited, and dump a lot of money, and they throw money at this thing. So before you know it, you burned through 20 million, and you still don't know what the problem is. For that matter, what the solution is. And I learned that it's you don't necessarily have to be first to be successful. One of the key things about being successful for a company is that timing has to be right, and the timing is when three things align. One is that the technology is mature enough for you to use it productively. The other thing is that the market awareness has to be there, and then there has to be some impetus pushing you forward. Well, EV charging is in that kind of a spot. Everyone wants EV because for climate change, right? And that the technology is here with batteries and with wireless technology, finding ant, and the government is pushing. So all three things are aligned. So that's kind of part of the thinking behind why develop patents, because 10 years ago, it's not obvious. It's not obvious what is the problem and what is the solution. And everyone rushed into, let's land grabbing, right? Just put as many public stations as you can. None of these guys are making money, right? And if you read about it, you start getting scared. Hey, maybe this is not a space I want to be in. But the problem, they misinterpret what's happening out in the industry. And so I've always felt that if things are not clear, focus on what will last, and that's patent, that's technology. Focus on the fundamentals. What are the things that's going to be needed for this business? Networking. So we file patent for the networking and reserving charges, and we filed for 9 patents now. And you said what is some behind the idea? I mentioned one of them earlier, which is about this universal register called AirQ, which is to log in and catalog all the charging stations as you find them. And I bet you there's probably at least 50% more chargers than we know of out there, right? So that's one of one of the other patents is our Cameo. The Cameo is that adapter that plugs onto a level 2 charging station.
That's one of the products I really wanted to focus in on. Can you give everyone a kind of overview of what Cameo is?
Yeah, it's I wish I had my prototype here, but Rob, my CMO, has it. But I'll use this. It's like if this is the Cameo, right? Let's say that this is the nozzle from the charging station, right? So the Cameo is a device that plugs onto that. Just plugs onto that. And this charging station, existing charging station, a level 2 charging station, is stupid. I mean, it's dumb. In other words, it's not networking. It's not connected. It's just sitting there in your garage.
It's not connected to the internet. It's
not connected to the internet. Nobody knows it exists. Okay. Well, the idea was, I travel so much that I use Airbnb a lot. And hey, if people are renting out their bedrooms, why not rent out the chargers that's sitting in the garage, right? And so there are actually over 2 million homes that have a level 2 charger in the garage. The public stations right now is probably about 150,000 chargers. What the? 2 million homes.
What's that? 20 times approximately the volume.
You're blanketing the U.S. Now, who's going to be worried about charging when it's all over? It's like, in every neighborhood, there's bound to be some home that has a charger. And I'm talking emergency here. You don't necessarily want to go to a house to charge, but it's good to know that, hey, If I only got 10,
in
10
yeah, in
miles to go
theory,
on my,
yeah, if I had a garage with a charger in it, I could maybe like snake it outside and I could rent it out and people could come and charge in my
yeah,
driveway theoretically and
yeah.
hey,
But even leave it in your garage because your garage has a door that you lock, and
yeah,
and and if you rent out your bedroom, right? So my thinking is that there's bound to be out of that 2 million homes, some portion is willing to make some money. And in fact, my one of my board members, Troy Hellman, he says I got like 3 chargers. I would love to rent it out because they're not all being used. So so that's the idea behind it. So on top of that, if you look at the Airbnb, they have, I believe, 6 million listings. Right? Six million
yes.
homes are listed on Airbnb. Hey, well, if we just get 600,000 listed, imagine what that is for our valuation for a company. Imagine what it is for the public. You don't have that crazy range anxiety. What if I ran out? And you know, but the whole beauty of this. Remember, people travel. They don't travel to some spot that has no life. Well, of course, camping is
It's
a
a whole
different
thing,
situation.
but
But
that's a
but
small,
usually you're going to visit somebody, right? A neighborhood. So
yeah.
by definition, if we are converting all these homes into rentable chargers, it means it's everywhere. So
And so
that's why I
walk me
think
through,
Cameo
yeah,
is so exciting.
yeah. And so walk me through the product stack, right? So there's Cameo, which is one thing, which is allows anyone who has a charging station already to monetize it essentially and make it
Yes,
public.
exactly, exactly.
And then my understanding is there's also maybe your core product question mark is the power pack.
Yeah, well, we internally we debate about what is the core product
Sure.
because I like the Cameo idea simply because I see Airbnb was with 150 billion valuation. Okay, you know, so that's and I think it's a but you know I also like the power pack obviously because I developed it and I wrote the patent for it, and and the power pack is I guess I would concede that it's our core product. Okay, I'll concede that simply because that's we if and this is why I mentioned to you I love fishing. Okay,
Sure. Okay.
and let me just digress a little bit. I'm not going to
Yeah.
show
Yeah.
you a video, because I probably mess it up when I try to link it. But fishing, the one of the most frustrating thing about fishing is you sit there for a day and you get no bites. Right? So I have overcome that fear because I hire a guide, right? And the
Got
guy
it.
the
Just
guy
find
knows
somebody who
where all
knows
the
where
spots
they're
are.
going.
Yeah, exactly. So the strategy of the power pack is that it's like um, go fish where you know there are fishes. So there are 30% of the population are in apartment buildings. They live in apartment buildings. I know where all these apartment buildings are. Right? I don't have to go find the customers. They're there. Right? So the power pack enables an apartment resident to get personal charging because over 70% of the apartment buildings in America are more than 20 years old. And that means that it's not built for EV charging. Even and they say, well, yeah, you just plug it into 110 volt. Yeah, but if you suddenly have 100 homes, 100 units in that, you can. Even if you wanted to provide 110 volt, you can't. You cannot. There's just not enough power in that building, and
Yeah.
it'd be blowing fuses. Well, the power pack, the beauty of it is that when people are at work, the power pack is storing the power. It's like a power bank. So it's reserved. So by the
And
time you come
it has,
home,
I presume, lithium batteries in it or something like that.
yeah, yes. And that's what I also mean about the technology is there at the right time. Because battery, so many different technologies are coming out now. And there was a recent announcement by a company that said it's double the power for the same amount of weight. That's great news.
That's great
Yeah.
news.
Yeah.
And so on the
Oh,
power
someone's
pack,
asking questions.
yeah,
Should I
we
be
got some
answering that?
questions. No, I'll
Yeah.
bring them in, but this is great. So we've got
Okay.
some questions about the power pack, and I know Barry asked a question as well. I'll circle back to that in a second.
Okay.
So let's start from kind of work backwards. So Tim asked, what's the capacity of the power pack? So it's storing energy while you're at work. What kind of charging can it do? Both how much can it store and how much can it
Yeah.
deploy?
Well, we don't we're not trying to uh, fully charge an EV. Or 80% or 90% of the population of the commuters only travel about 30 to 40 miles a day for commute. Uh, that's a known statistic for decades now. People just drive to work and drive back from work. So our idea is that we want to give you enough power to get to work, right? And I predicted years ago that eventually the municipality and the government is going to get in. They're going to force employers to provide charging, which they're doing now,
On the
right?
employer side.
On the employer side. So our duty is to get you to work, right? That's going to be enough to get you back, of course. But so the idea is that we want to give you that charge to get you to work. So the battery size doesn't have to be the same size of the car. The EV has a 50 kilowatt battery, right? We don't need to do that. We just need to have you at 7 kilowatt, and that's enough to get you that 40 miles range to get to work. And it could go up as high as a 100-mile range if you happen to be one of the few cars that's there. And because once the batteries, our power pack is empty, it starts charging you at the normal 110 volt.
Yeah, so a couple miles an hour. But still keeps going.
So it just keeps going. And but the first hour to 2 hours is fast charge. So bang, you got 30, 40 miles in the first couple hours. So basically you come home, you
Pop it in for an hour or two. And
plug it in an hour, and then you if you want to go out again, you can do that and then come back and charge. So that should fulfill the majority of needs. It's an interim solution because of course we're going to get the society is going to get to the point where the utilities start upgrading and the government start funding the buildings and then eventually we'll migrate that equipment. But we have a whole architecture that's kind of been verified by Arrow Electronics. We just finished a contract with them where they built out the architecture for the power pack. So now we have multiple models that we can bring to market. We don't have a product yet. Okay.
Yeah.
But that's what this funding is about, is to position us to get to that.
And there's a follow-up question there, which is, do you have a planned pricing for the power pack, and do you know, a planned timing for when it's going to be available?
Yeah, the first thing is that I'm sure your viewers know about Peloton. I mean, it's on TV all the time, and you're basically paying a monthly fee.
At-home bike.
Yes, but you're paying a monthly fee for the equipment. The Peloton is more expensive than our power pack. So the same goes with us. We're going to be basically leasing out the power pack to you. And typically, you probably, if you lease a car, it's 3 to 4 year, 5 year lease. So we will match that lease, and hopefully the dealers will be marketing that. So it's like an option. Oh, you want this package or that package, hi-fi and all that. What about a power pack? Because they'll find out you live in an apartment building.
And does that work? Now I'm thinking for you, because if I'm a buyer of a car, I might plan to have it for 5 or 10 years, but I might only plan to be in an apartment for a year or two. So I can lease the power pack for 2 or 3 years while I'm still in an apartment. And then when I move to a house, I can send it back essentially.
Yeah, well, we probably would just let somebody else lease it, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Interesting. And then did you have a timeline about when? Oh, sorry. So, but we asked about price. So the price point would be the lease. Did you have a sense of price point and when it'll be available?
Well, I think the best way to answer that is that I got my costs validated. So my cost is, and this is really largely based on the price of batch. So my cost target is around $2,000. So we just amortize that. So whatever the amortization is, 3 to 5 years, and we think that because I have had quite a few inquiries from building owners. Okay, so we think that we can kind of split the upfront that we get in advance. Sort of, it's like a security deposit, right? When you have cable TV, you get the cable box. You have to put a security deposit. Um, uh, so we take a security deposit, and then the rest out we just lease it out. And we've talked to at least one bank that's interested in that model.
Very cool. And sorry, did you give us any kind of timeline on when you think there might be available?
Well, we get funded tomorrow. It'll be Q1.
Okay,
Because
fair enough.
we kind of want to get our Cameo has gone through several prototyping stages, so we're comfortable that we can get that to market and introduce it in Q4. But with the timing is everything, so we want to start with that. If we had all the money we wanted, we'll probably do both product in parallel, and we'll be comfortable doing it Q1. We already have an order for Q1 delivery, so we're going to try to live up to that.
Try and fulfill it. And then one small question, more of a comment, but I'll ask it in the form of a question, which is, do you think are there tax credits around this item, and would outright sale work better for tax credits?
I'll have to ask my CFO, and since I'm the CFO right now, I don't know. So I'm being honest, but those are the kind of things that those kind of things I would think is that because it has to do with the clean air and all that kind of stuff, and that legislation is always coming in to propagate that, right? To support that. So I'm kind of an optimist that the laws is going to work in our favor, and it's happening. We're seeing buildings now are being mandated to start thinking about providing charging and so forth. So tax credits got to be one of the ways to do it, to incentivize people, because you get subsidized when you buy an EV, and that's how Tesla got so big, because they were the only one that were getting the subsidies.
And then we had one other question about the power pack itself. Can it use a 220-volt connection?
We have the short answer is yes, but it's a different. It's not the one we sell in North America, but yes. Yeah.
And then someone was asking about transportation. So do you plug it in your apartment and then take it down to the car, or how does that work? Is that the question?
That's leading into another product set, and that has interesting implications. Maybe I don't know what I can talk about, but the answer to your question is that no, you don't plug it in your apartment. It stays connected down where your car is, and the idea is that we want to use existing infrastructure that's there, and by infrastructure I'm talking beyond just an outlet. Okay, what about the lights? The lights is a source of electricity. We can drop 110 volt from the lights. Now, certain different buildings have different lighting infrastructure, so the voltage may be different. But all that is a matter of having the right adapter. So we'll figure it out. But initially, the power pack is designed for 110 volt, and it can be we can equip it with just a normal plug, so you plug it into 110 volt. I don't like that idea simply because then you're open to kids or even adults unplugging you, right? the mischief, right? So I rather wire it into that power outlet. But of course, an extension of that is that part of the patent allows for bringing in a mobile charger that charges all the power packs. Okay, that's already there, and because that's the next phase, that will enable to do that. And the reason for that is this: some buildings you just cannot wire, because
there's just enough capacity.
Okay, yeah, so it's exactly, they don't have enough capacity, and I tell you, it is extremely expensive if you try to bring in more power into the building, because you have to get utility company to put a substation there, and it can run from 50,000 to 200,000 depending how much we want to put in. So there's a lot of variation that our patent kind of help. We have patents in mobile charging, patents in the power pack, in networking, and yeah, you know, and some of the stuff in networking goes beyond just networking the equipment in the building, so that you can communicate with it. This goes beyond that. We're thinking in terms of the development of like automated teller machines, ATMs, right? Now, you don't look old enough to know this, Rob. Okay, but
I've used an ATM, if that's what you're insinuating. But
yeah, but I was in my early days. I was a VP for a bank, and in the venture capital division, as a matter of fact. And we were introducing these ATMs, and in those early days, it's a great idea. People loved it, but the problem is you have to go to that particular bank to get your cash. Well, that doesn't help when you're in a country fair and you need cash, right? But what pushed the growth of ATM is when you are able to use other people's ATM to access your bank. So I can go to Citibank to get my stuff from Chase. I see that as part of the way of getting EV charging much more user friendly. I don't have to sign up for 5 different network companies. I don't have to charge for an EVgo or Blink or and have 5 IDs, just because they don't talk to each other. So that's part of and I don't remember whether that's patented or is patent pending, but the networking of the various charging networks.
Infrastructure. Well, that's a good segue. We've got a couple of questions around the idea of competition and competitors. So one person Anthony asked kind of, this sounds similar to other public companies like ELIQ, EV Plus, Chipped, Blink. So do you want to talk about how this might be a little bit different or where you might overlap?
Well, I think all those companies are focused on public stations. Their focus is on that land grabbing that I mentioned earlier. They don't really, in my opinion, they don't really like apartment buildings because their model is on traffic. So if they put in, and that's how the equipment is designed. That equipment is designed
high traffic
for
because they charge fees for their
for a number of people coming, right? Because that charger has to be they make money on the revenue of the per charge basis, right? Whereas when we go for, and they cannot put that model doesn't work because it's not battery bank and like ours is, so they need to have a lot of traffic. Well, the fundamental premise that we've been saying is that charging, what people want about EV charging is that they want to do it at home. Even if you live in an apartment, I want to charge at home.
They don't want to go to they don't want the gas station experience of going out to charge. They want to do it in their own house.
No matter how fast that charger is, I still have to wait. Okay, and and I tell you, I think you will find that where you can go out there, and when you find a level 2 station, the fast charging station is probably well used. I have people who have cars and they like using that.
Yeah.
But they're not full. And if you see the level 2 charging, they're not being used. People want to charge at home. They don't want to leave home with an empty car.
That's the convenience of it.
Exactly. That's why 80%. That's why 80% of the charging is at home.
Yeah, and it makes sense. If you wake up every morning with a full tank of gas, that's a great experience.
Well,
great user.
That's like your iPhone. You always charge your iPhone overnight, right?
Exactly. One other question about competitors, and then I want to circle back to the product. We've got some other questions about the product. I think this is related more to the app and maybe Cameo, but how does that different from like the PlugShare app. So your ability to see all the chargers everywhere, and PlugShare, which I believe, if I know right, is kind of a community sourced resource to
Yeah.
find plugs.
Well, yeah, we plan to piggyback on PlugShare in terms of the data, right? PlugShare doesn't manage the stations on there. They just list it. It's a directory. PlugShare is a directory. I think we go beyond being a directory that we want to actually manage our own station. The Cameo, we think the Cameo, once it takes off, it's going to outstrip any charging company there is. You know,
In
the
terms of
largest
number of
company,
charger.
the number of chargers, because it's the homes. I mean, our goal is for the homes. And it's part of the and if you think about it, that's the circuit's already there. Okay, the utility company knows already how much power is being consumed there. You don't have to go put in some more circuits over here, over there, and it's already the power use is already disseminated. Now, I want to say something about Power
Yeah.
Pack because this is I was talking to as a matter of fact I mentioned this to the Canadian government that Power Pack is vital to the nation's security. And I mentioned this to some military friends in the US too, because foreign nasty governments are always trying to kill our grid, right? So they're always trying to sabotage your grid, take over the network, whatever. Well, if they shut down the grid, our Power Pack at least has power. Okay, it's because it's being stored across the country.
Yeah, and actually that leads to a good question. We had a question from Steve. So can the power? Well, my question is, can the Power Pack feed back into the grid? Like could a Power Pack theoretically feed an apartment building? And then the second question from Steve is, the Power Pack be programmed to avoid charging its battery during expensive times of days, and kind of charge up the Power Pack when it's cheap?
The quick answer is yes, but because the charging back into putting back into the grid is what we call V2G, vehicle to the grid.
The grid,
right?
Yeah.
And in our case, it'll be the Power Pack is in between. So that is the intent. That is the intent. But it doesn't have as much. That's only in an emergency. But that is the intent because eventually, part of the migration pattern that we have for the Power Pack is that, and as part of the pattern is that it will be able to network with other Power Packs in the building, right? And just imagine this, so that because we each have different driving habits. So some people only need 10 miles, right? So that means they only charge up to 10 miles. And others need 40 miles or 50 miles. So the Power Pack will be able to balance out the power so that we take it from the one here that's not being used. And so that's all part of the pattern. We've not built it yet, okay, but
Sure.
I'm pretty confident that can be done.
And then I got some more questions coming in. So Barry asked, I have a level 2 charger in my garage. Are you suggesting I get a Cameo and have someone sit in my driveway for hours to charge their car?
Only if you want to. You are the host. We don't control your charger. You're the host. You decide how much time you're allowing people to charge. And it'll be all, don't forget, the Cameo makes your dumb charger smart. So it knows when it's available. Right? It's constantly communicating with our cloud. Right? And people have to reserve that charger. Right? So you set the time, you as the host with your charger, you set the time you want to make it available. And you also set the pricing.
I was about to ask, you set the pricing? Could you set a flat fee as well, saying like it costs $20 to sit in my driveway, period, and then
entirely up to the host. But let me tell you what I want to implement from a marketing standpoint.
Sure.
Most neighborhoods, aside from the urban centers, Uh, uh, but most neighborhood is a multi-structure neighborhood. So you have apartment building, then you have single family homes, detached home around it. So just imagine, uh, and this is one way to make sure that there's good money to be made by the host. What we plan to do is that we go by communities and multi-structure areas, and we market to both the building management as well as the residents around the building, because then we can connect these guys. So this host, level 2 charger host, we can help. We can market to the building and say, hey, we need 5 tenants, and here's a charger over here that has an opening for five monthly charging clients. So that way you can set some sort of a contract and say, well, if I was in a building that had no charger and I had an EV, I would love that. Knowing that there's a home with a charger, a Cameo charger, that's only a block away. Hey, maybe 2 blocks away. I can walk that.
And you
I'll
might
just,
have a bit of a community around you to create.
exactly. So you say, hey, I want that for every Monday or every Tuesday. I want it for the whole week, and you set a monthly fee. So the charger host can set the monthly fee. So wouldn't it be nice if I know, hey, every day of the week I've got someone using this, so I've got steady income.
It's being utilized.
It's been utilized. The average income by Airbnb host is like, I believe it was 8,000 a year. That's not bad.
It's nice. It's nice little side income. Nice something to have coming in. That's great. Well, thanks, Barry. Thanks for all the questions, everybody. That was a good one, Barry. I hope you'll consider, helping out other EV owners if you want. Reminder to everybody here, we're getting towards the end of our time. It's going so quickly. If you have questions for Esmond, please put them in here. We'd love to answer them. In the meantime, a couple more small product questions. So,
Sure.
Can a power pack receive solar power?
Sorry?
Can a power pack be charged up by solar panels or by solar power?
Absolutely, it can be charged from that too. Yeah.
Great.
And it's not part of the first release, okay? But you see, this thing may escape people as to why we think the power pack is going to be so popular. You see, buildings, apartment buildings have what they call HOA, home ownership. Homeowners, it's a fee you pay for maintenance. I think they call it HOA. But buildings are not going to suddenly have 20% going to buy EVs. Okay, right? Okay, so if there's only one guy with an EV and he goes to the building owner and says, "Hey, I need a charger," and this applies to our competition. If they want to put in a level 2 charger, they can't because there's not enough traffic. And if the building owner wants to accommodate this single EV tenant, I'm not going to spend 50,000 to bring in more power to give you that. But the power pack is incremental. Install it on a tenant by tenant basis, right?
So it basically allows the apartment owners to scale up or down their investment in EVs.
Yes, everybody's happy, and the grid be happy because we're not suddenly dumping a lot of power. Nothing changes, right? The building is already structured for 110 volt. All we're doing is we're using the power that's not being used when you're at work, right? Don't forget the generating stations are designed for the peak, right?
And base load.
But yeah, the base load, exactly. So nobody's using it. That base is there. That capacity is there when you're at work, right?
And Barry chimed in again real quick. Thanks, Barry. So he said, I invested in Power Hero, so I'll do what I can to help them be successful. And I specifically look for resorts
Barry, go.
with on-site chargers when driving.
Thank you, Barry.
and planning a vacation. So yeah, it sounds like we've got an EV driver here who thinks about this stuff. And yeah, if a resort or a hotel or someplace has a place to charge your car, it makes it all that
Yeah.
much more
Yeah.
appealing.
I don't know. And you mentioned somebody asked about whether you plug it at home,
Yeah.
right? And then, okay, I, I'll leave this thought to you. Can I? What if every Uber driver has a portable power pack in his trunk?
Be a lot of
Suddenly,
chargers driving around.
you got a lot of mobile chargers. All right, that's another dimension. Okay, you don't go to the charger comes to you. So that's part of our patent strategy.
Very cool. Well, we've got one more question right now, which I think might be a good way to start wrapping things up. If anyone's got any final questions, please drop them in. But Tim asked kind of what's the status of the offering? So can you tell us a little bit, Esmond, about what you're raising right now? What's the Netcapital offering look like? Fill people in on what's going on.
Oh well, we plan to raise $1 million to $2 million. That's another thing that I learned also in the number of startups I've done. If you raise too much money too soon, you know what happens? The money is wasted because the startup will just burn through it because they say, "Hey, we got lots of money. Do that, do this," and it's gone. Who pays the price? The shareholder, your investor. That's not my style. I have suffered through that. So if you look at what we have burned, we've only spent $1.5 million, 1.5 million. And hey, I know it's taken us a while to get here, but the market was not ready. We had 2 years of COVID. And the market was not ready. Now all these other charging companies that went to land grab, they're suffering. They're not making money. If I'm not saying that we'll get acquired, but if we're in there and we're the only one with the product and we have a patented product for apartment buildings, and competitors want to change their business plan and go to apartment, why bother? Why not buy us? I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
There's no guarantees here, but you're just talking hypotheticals about what could happen.
Yes, yeah. It just makes it, I think, more attractive as an investment.
Well, that's great, Esmond. Well, we appreciate it. I think, well, why don't I leave it with this, which is, are there any final kind of thoughts you have that you want to make sure people know before we wrap up?
Well, I think the one thing I want people to know is that we are very frugal with our resources and assets. And that's why we managed to have such a low burn rate. We would love it to, I think the valuation that, I don't know what I can say because it's all there in our offering, but we plan to increase the size of the offering so that to get to that amount that we needed. But look at management, look at track record. We've been there. The team, my board, and my team have gone through startups. We've gone through getting companies out to maturity and to exit. Yeah, we're very frugal of our resource, and that speaks from the fact that we've only burned $1.5 million, or maybe, some people may argue maybe $1.7 million. Hey, that's better than 20 million, and you owning 0.00000, whatever percent of the company, because our valuation is low. We burn low. So if we burn low, that means we're not going to be raising another 20 million, which is going to dilute you. So I'll leave you with that.
Well, Esmond, we really appreciate you taking the time. I think that's all the questions we have time for right now. Oh, I'm going to sneak in one last question. We had one more, which is.
Oh, this is about Verizon?
Yeah, curious about why Verizon partnered with you.
Yeah, my co-founder Rob is actually handling that relationship, and in his previous life, he was the CEO of a oxygen equipment company, and he was a pioneer in getting oxygen equipment machine connected to the cloud, and he partnered with Verizon. So he built a relationship with Verizon. Verizon, um, I, I I think, is very smart. And I'm not saying the others are not smart, but Verizon is focusing on the commercial sector because the consumer sector is just, a revolving door. Every carrier is always trying to buy the other customer away from you. So they always keep churning customers. But Verizon is looking at businesses that can guarantee them utilization of their network. When we install a charger or a power pack and it's communicating, we're using data lines, and that's why
On the
Verizon,
Verizon network.
right, off the Verizon network. That's why they they welcome us to be part of the venture partner program. And Verizon has 3,000 inside salesmen. And I think if you look at the video, Rob talks about partnering with them to do sales, inside sales. So that's not going to happen overnight. They're going to because we're going to roll out. They can't sell something that that's not ready yet.
Sure,
But
that doesn't exist.
that's the prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's great. Appreciate it. That's really exciting. Well, thanks everyone. This was fantastic. Thanks, Esmond, for taking the time. For everyone here, you can check out. I put it in the chat, but obviously it's available via the emails or other things. We'll send a follow up after this. But you all are welcome and invited to look at Power Heroes offering on Netcapital. Take a look. If there's any other questions that occurred to you, there's a discussion board there. I'm sure Esmond and his team would be happy to respond.
Happy to. Am I allowed to say my email?
Sure.
Yeah, it's simple. Esmond@powerhero.com.
Great. So you can reach out to Esmond directly. And so
Yeah.
you can reach out to him, obviously post on the discussion board. And if you have any questions for the Netcapital team, you can always email team@netcapital.com, and my team's happy to answer any questions about the investment process, setting up your account, things like that. And if it's right for you, please consider taking a look at the Power Hero page and making an investment.
And I want to thank you, Rob, and your team. I'll tell you, your team has been fabulous in getting us here. Thank you so much.
Really appreciate it, Esmond. That means a lot. So thanks everyone for being here. Thanks, Esmond, once again for taking the time. And thanks, everybody. Take care.
Thank you. Let's go fishing.
Sure. Sounds good. We'll go fishing. Thanks.